Ollie could have sworn that these were normal mushrooms. When he bought them in the store, they were just very normal baby Bella garden variety mushrooms. And yet, when he got them out of his bag in his apartment, they looked completely different. For one thing, they had red caps with white spots, which is usually not a mushroom you actually want to eat. But that was not the most concerning thing about the mushrooms. By far the most concerning thing about the mushrooms was that they were walking around and they had little feet and eyes and a mouth. They weren't really saying anything, but they were just kind of patting around on their little feet. Kind of scowly little eyes, too. Not even regular eyes. They looked sinister, but they were still small, like a baby Bella mushroom that you get from the grocery store would be. Ollie was startled by the revelation. At first, he dropped the box of mushrooms, the little carton of mushrooms. So they scattered all over his countertop. And then they'd, one by one, righted themselves and started patting around. They seemed to stop at the edges of the sink and the countertop. They weren't, conquering the whole apartment, but still. It wouldn't do. So when Ollie gathered his wits, the only thing I think to do was to sort of sweep them back into the paper grocery bag that he'd pulled them out of. He took the other few things he'd gotten from the grocery store out. As he reached for, realized he wasn't sure, didn't feel confident at all whether or not they'd bite or what their deal was. So he got a wooden spoon and used that to kind of thwack them into the paper bag. Once he got all of them in there, he rolled over the top twice, got a stapler, and stapled it shut. All right. I thought, this is a stable situation. Still real weird. I wasn't quite sure what to do about it either. He'd gotten it from the grocery store just around the corner. So I thought, well, if nothing else, I should return these and let them know that something really, really weird was going on with their mushrooms. Well, I recognized it was not a complete solution to buying regular mushrooms and finding them to be self-motile and changed by the time he got back to his apartment, but he didn't really have a better solution exactly. So off he went with the bag and his receipt. And he got there and he said, "Hi, I need to return these mushrooms that I bought." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, something wrong with them?" I said, "Yeah, well, they, it's going to sound weird. They came alive and started walking around on my kitchen countertop." The clerk raised an eyebrow. I said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you're right, that does sound odd. I don't mind processing the return. If you're unhappy with the mushrooms, we will certainly give you your money back. But, do you mind if I take a look real quick? I mean, I'm going to give you your money back either way, don't get me wrong. Not worried about the price of the sale of mushrooms. Satisfied customers and all." I said, no, that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah. So we opened up and pulled out the staples and opened them up. And they both peered in there. It was a little hard to see. They didn't seem to be doing anything. "Oh, hold on," said the manager that he was talking to. He reached into his drawer and there was a little flashlight in there. Showing the flashlight into the bag, and there was, at the bottom of the bag, a normal quantity like you'd get in those little paper cartons of Normal looking mushrooms. They weren't red with white spots. They certainly didn't have legs and mouths, and they weren't walking around. Ollie said. That is... I feel quite silly now. The man did. You know what? You're here a lot, and something weird happened. And it's my priority to make you a happy customer. Let's do your return. Here's an idea. In the freezer section, we've got some nice frozen baby portobello mushrooms. It's very similar. They're in a little bit of a white wine sauce. So would that work for what you're cooking? I said, yeah, that would actually work. Yeah, and they're already pre-sliced. So don't even worry about it. I'll deal with the receipts and stuff in the back end. You go grab that from the freezer counter. I'll take this as a return. Don't even worry about it. Thank you, Ollie said. That's kind of you. Ollie wasn't quite sure what to do with the situation because he wasn't used to being that wrong about anything, really, but he figured something weird happened. Maybe I just imagining things. Maybe I'm not been sleeping. I'm just going to take the gracious grocer's offer, go home, cook these in my dinner. Well, not these, but the frozen ones. And so that's what he did. And he got back into the apartment. We left the grocery store. And as he got to his apartment door, the door opened, and somebody held the door for him. But that person was a turtle creature with wings and like a big snout and standing on its hind legs. Yes, I know. The turtle creature nodded at Ollie, and Ollie nodded at the turtle creature. And they both went on their way. I thought, well, that's odd. I haven't noticed that person, or turtle, in the apartment building before. Well, I couldn't really judge. I mean, he's a talking octopus, so who's he to be suspicious of a turtle that walks around on its hind legs? But it was weird. Well, I decided to take the stairs because things were just a little too funky. And he walked by one of the apartments. Well, he walked by a bunch of apartments, but one of the doors was open, is the point. And all I could see straight in, there was a workman, well, two workmen there, working on the kitchen. And I almost wouldn't have stopped, except that he just noticed their very brightly colored overalls. Because the two of them were shorter than usual, and big mustaches, and one of them was wearing a bright red pair of overalls, and the other was wearing a bright green pair of overalls. And they both had on weird, like, cabbie caps with letters on the front of them. That's taking it a bit far, Ollie thought. Pardon me, gentlemen. He looked up and said, sorry, this apartment's not open right now. We're doing some repairs. And the guy with the L on his hat came up and closed the door. Let's go. This was all getting to be a little odd. I went back to his apartment. Took the elevator. I thought, just gotta get back in my apartment. Gotta get into my safe space. He looked out the window. And there was some strange green creature riding along in the clouds, throwing mysterious packages down. I said, all right, I am not in the Mario universe. I'm just going to call it out. I was talking to myself at this point, but it was a weird day. So I'm going to acknowledge the fact that I'm seeing Mario characters in my walkabout daily life. And what does one do about that? Well, I thought. And he thought, well, I'm going to call the weirdest person I know, and that's Wally the Wizard. And the thing was, it wasn't just the weirdness. It was that Wally had been over at Ollie's apartment the night before. They had gotten together to have burritos and watch the Spider-Man TV show, which they'd binge watched, half of it last week and half of it yesterday. So Ollie called Wally up. Hey, Ollie, how's it going? What do you think of this show? So I thought it was good. A little surprised by some of the characters, but that in a good way. That's not what I wanted to call about, though, Wally. Oh? What's going on? And Ollie described the strange happenings with the mushrooms and the turtles and the plumbers. I said, oh, that is weird. Because you don't even really play video games, do you? I said, no, I mean, I've played video games now and then, but I don't even really have a console right now. The kid in the apartment next door plays a lot of video games, though. And sometimes I'll even go over there and play video games with him. You know, if his parents are out and he's somebody to watch him or whatever. Well, I said, yeah, sure. I mean, that's fine, but I heard some rustling around, like someone digging through a bag and then digging through a box of keys. What? That's tough. And Molly said, I may have forgotten something over there. I said, what sort of thing? Can you check your couch? It's a talesman. It's probably the right word, I'd say. I said, what kind of a talesman am I looking for? The one that I can't seem to put my hands on right now is a half orb. It's different color and different light, but it's always got kind of a sparkly star kind of appearance. I mean, like, looks like it's got depth to it. And that half orb is set into kind of a polished bronze, kind of a... It's shaped kind of like a flame or a teardrop, but the pattern is more like snakes. I thought about it. I said, okay, I can picture that. Give me a minute. And I started looking around. Looked onto the couch, wasn't there. Looked on the coffee table. I found a purple stick with a bunch of S's carved on it. Oh, that's mine. That's mine too, but that's not what we're looking for. Don't worry about that. That is just a little ghost catcher. I said ghost catcher. So yeah, but not for human-sized ghosts. That's big enough for like mouse ghosts. But I don't think it's related. Try the couch cushions? So I looked around on the couch cushions, and he dug around, and inside there, kind of underneath, way in the back corner, Ollie found something that was about the right description. He pulled it out. It was a little bit stuck. So he pulled the couch out, and there was a little pin on the back, and it was stuck into the cloth of the cushion. So I pulled that out. I said, yeah, no, I got your thing here. It's a pin, right? Well, I said, it is a pin. I forgot that it was a pin. Yeah. What's it doing? I said, like, right now? Yeah. No, actually, it is doing something. The orb, there's some yellow clouds floating around in the orb, kind of like they're passing by in the sky. I said, ooh, that's not good. Just then there was a knock on the door. I said, hold on a second. Well, I went and opened the door. And it was his neighbor, Shelley. And she was holding several more of the turtle creatures. Ollie, do you know what's going on with these turtles? They're all over the apartment building. And they seem harmless enough. Well, there's one of them that's wearing a helmet and he's throwing hammers, like tiny hammers. I said, yeah. I'm working on that, actually. I've got an idea. Well, can I come in? Your apartment seems not full of them. Sure, come on in, Ollie said. So Shelley put the turtles down and kind of shooed them away from the door and closed the door behind her. Wally had heard that whole interaction over the phone. He said, I'm going to go ahead and spend the expense and do a teleportation spell. I'll be there in like 2 minutes, Ollie said. Ollie, can you turn off the light in your bathroom and close the door? Sure. Ollie went and turned off the light in his bathroom and closed the door. She said, what's going on? What? Who? I said, it's my wizard friend. I think he left some weird magic stuff here, and it's doing weird magic things. About a minute and a half later, there was a noise that sounded sort of like an inverse beef Wellington, like a wet thud, but bready. And then the door opened, and Wally came out, dressed in his full regalia, full-on robes and stuff. He even had not a full-on staff, but a magic wand. But bigger than a regular magic wand. This one was about the size of a youth league t-ball bat. Okay. Give me the orb. Hello. Oh, hi. Well, I said, I'm Wally. I'm a friend of Ollie's. Hi, I'm Shelley. I live down the hall. I found some turtles. Yeah, things are weird. They're going to get less weird. Ollie, the orb? Right. And Ollie handed him the orb. Ollie took a careful look at it and tapped it with his magic baton. He listened. He turned around a little bit like he was smelling something. I said, okay, who's next door? That direction. Ollie motioned with the baton. That's the kid with the Nintendo. Yeah. This is a kid you hang out with sometimes? Yeah, I mean, once in a while. Let's go. They walked over and knocked on the door. And the kid's mother answered. To find Ollie and Shelley, who she knew, and a wizard who she did not. Hi. How can I help you? Ollie? Shelley, hello. What's going on? I said, well, my friend here may have accidentally done some weird wizard stuff. And your son's Nintendo is involved. Just by proximity, I assure you, ma'am. No harm will come to your son. I don't even think any harm will come to the Nintendo. But if it does, I will pay for the Nintendo. But I do need to take a look. Ollie, is he? He's safe. Don't worry about it. I trust him. Okay, if you trust him, then please come in. Can I offer you a glass of iced tea or something? Ollie, I've got some coffee on the pot. Oh, that'd be lovely. Thank you, ma'am. Ollie went to the kitchen, and Wally went over to the television with the Nintendo, which the apartment was laid out the same as Ollie's apartment, so it was all the same. And there was a kid there playing classic Mario. Like Super Mario Brothers, the old school one. Dude, I love this game. Can I have a turn? And the kid said, Mom? I said, yeah, it's fine, hon. He's a friend of Ollie's. Okay, here you go. Thank you, young man. And Wally took out the talisman, set it on top of the controller. And then Wally did sit down and play through a level. Ollie noticed that he was also muttering mystical incantations while he did it. I was pretty sure that he was really casting a spell, but playing the game to keep the kid from noticing what was going on. And overall, Ollie was grateful for it. After a bit, near the end of the level, Wally accidentally, in quotation marks, jumped into a pit. Ah, man. Lost my touch. I'll have to get more in practice. Well, thank you. That's fine. And Wally stood up, turned around, gave Ollie and Shelley and the mom a wink and mouthed, "It's going to be fine." They went out into the hallway, and the turtles were gone. They went down to the apartment they'd been working on, knocked on the door. And there were still 2 plumbers there, but they were no longer dressed in garish red and green overalls. Said, "Sorry, look, I told you that the apartment's not open right now. We're doing repairs." I noticed that their hats just said Saffir Plumbing. "Yeah, sorry to bother you. Go right ahead." They went back to Ollie's apartment. I said, "All right, what's the deal?" This orb is a dimensional portal thing. And it fell out of my pocket. It seems to have latched on to the kid's Nintendo. I'm surprised, because he's got all these novels here. But it's got his attention. I think the kid next door might be a budding wizard, so you might want to watch out for him. Anyway, terribly sorry. I've got to go. I've got an appointment in half an hour. Call me if any more weird magic stuff happens. And with that, Wally left the way that he came, by going into the bathroom and diving through the mirror. "Well, I'll keep an eye out," Shelley said. "Nice to see you as always, Ollie." And she left, and Ollie was alone in his apartment. Everything seemed normal. And I said, "Well, I guess I should make my dinner." By now, the frozen mushrooms had thawed on the countertop. So, I started some water to boil for pasta. And that was the case of Ollie and the walking mushrooms.